Welcome to a very special edition of the Armstrong Williams Show. Believe it or not, Donald Trump will be inaugurated today for a second term. And the city is just as you've never seen it before. People you've never seen before, parties, receptions. I must tell you, it's dazzling. But what is really dazzling about this city is that, less than a month ago, the mayor of Washington, D.C. Met with the former president at Mar-a-Lago. We're going to get into that. But joining us today for this very special edition is the Honorable Mayor of the District of Columbia, the Honorable Muriel. Welcome to the broadcast.
My pleasure.
I saw you at Mr. Carter's funeral. I don't go to funerals because, I lost my parents, and it just brings back so many memories. And I know you lost your father recently. I know you don't talk about it, and you're very stoic. You don't show emotions. But obviously, I was reading these reports about Karen Bass and the fires in Los Angeles. She doesn't show emotions, and people think they need to see you showing emotions, and I understand that. But how do you endure? Because you're a human being. I mean, obviously, you can answer the questions that we're going to talk about today. But what about when you lose something so close to you and you're sitting there and all those memories? How do you remember your father?
I remember him every day.
Yeah.
And I had the best one to do it ever. So I've never really known any time without my father being in my corner and rooting for me. And now he roots for me from above.
As I look over your shoulder and I see the District of Columbia flag, and I see the United States flag of America and how intertwined they are and how important the District of Columbia has been to the history of America. Let's talk about, you're the mayor of a city that has such rich history and significance.
Yes. Well, we're unique, and I explained to everybody just how different we are. Not everybody still knows what Washington, D.C. is. So we're the proud nation's capital, but we're also a city, county, and a state. As mayor, I run the school district and other state functions, and we take care of ourselves. We pay more taxes per capita than any jurisdiction in the union, and we are home to 700,000 people. We can go out the door and see the capital of the United States, yet we don't have representation. We do not have senators, and we do not have a voting member of Congress. And that's one thing that we like to change. We know that the president is very keen on having the 51st state, and we think it should be Washington, D.C.
That did not change when you had Democrats in power. People assumed that would have happened when Barack Obama was president of the United States. Joe Biden, but it didn't. What is it that people don't understand?
It's not, and this, I want to be very clear about this. Perfecting our union, honoring the promise of our democracy that every person is entitled to one vote is not a Democratic or Republican issue. And what we have focused on in DC is making sure we have our ducks in a row and we're ready. We have written our Constitution, we have defined our boundaries, we have ensured that there would be an enclave that is the federal enclave, and we have put that in front of the people of the District of Columbia. They have voted over 80% to add us to the union, just like every state has been added to the union outside of the first 13. So that's important. And so you talk about our history. We're more than federal buildings. 700,000 people live here. We have beautiful neighborhoods, great schools, small businesses. So we're just like every other American.
We're celebrating a decade of you at the helm of the city. You were there for Donald Trump's first term, Joe Biden's one term, and now back for Trump again. How does a city like this prepare for an inauguration weekend? What really goes into
Well, it's huge amount of preparation, and we're proud to support every inauguration. And this will be my third transition. So from Obama to Trump and Trump to Biden, and now back to Trump. And we have a wonderful police force, Homeland Security. We have great federal partners, and they work for many, many months getting ready for the inaugural. I was actually with the groups as they were preparing, going through their final walkthrough, and it's just a room full of really dedicated people who have one thing on their mind: public safety, and making sure that the nation's capital looks good and that our democracy functions.
How much of an impact, did it have any impact, what you witnessed in New Orleans at the Sugar Bowl with the lone wolf? Because it seems as though we're no longer focusing on the type of terrorism that we've seen in the past at these lone wolves that's unseen, underground. You just don't see them coming, but they're there, and they create such havoc on our way of life.
Well, I think what I have learned in this position is be very careful about assumptions, and instead listen carefully and dig, not just wait for you to get it, but dig for intelligence that might impact your people. And that's important. So I don't want to ever assume that it's not going to be from this group or it's not going to be from that group. We should be looking at every group and every possibility as best we can and get the best intelligence possible, be not just before major events, but everyday events.
You know, obviously, before this interview, I've talked to many people from every socioeconomic background, and they were really proud to see that you met with former President Trump, given the acrimonious relationship in the past, not necessarily on your part. He used you for a sounding board, his politics, but you're able to rise above that because you are the mayor of the nation's capital first. And it's important that you work with whomever is president of the United States. Explain to our national audience why it's so important and how are you able not to be petty? You're able to put differences aside, forgive, and give someone a clean slate and when it comes to you in this city that you love.
Well, I think, we have to rise above the personal, and certainly we're all human beings and people are going to have a human and emotional reaction. Nobody likes to hear their city talked about in negative ways. Nobody likes to be singled out by a former president or future president of the United States. But I have a job to do. And so I don't really have the luxury of living in my emotions. I have to make sure that I'm putting my best foot forward. And, frankly, Armstrong, it became very clear to me that my residents are anxious, that they're scared. And I needed to take the temperature down and depersonalize these issues and say the president has a job to do, the mayor has a job to do. And like if we're going to be in a battle, let's be in it. But wouldn't it be better if we focused on our shared priorities?
And talk about what you see as the priorities with this incoming administration, what it is that you and this new administration can do, not just for the district, because when you do it for the country, you do it for the city, you do it for the nation.
Yes, well, I think it's going to be a lot of policy differences, I'm sure. But my focus, and I'm almost head down focused on Washington, D.C., and what a change in administration means to us. And for, many years now, many months, and actually many years, I've been focused on the outsized role the federal government has in D.C. And the impact of remote work on the city. And so I think the president can create a centralized telework policy that's going to be good for D.C.
It is fascinating when you think about D.C. And people also see D.C. as a cultural center of the world. They see it as a tourist center. I mean, the monuments, the museum that you have here. Talk about the culture aspect of DC that is so unique?
Well, part of my job is I'm a cheerleader for the city. I have go around the country. I've been around the world, attracting business, attracting visitors, attracting new residents to Washington, D.C. And many people will know our monuments and museums, and we're proud of that, but that doesn't tell our whole story. So most people wouldn't know that we have more theater seats than any place else in the country except New York City. And so we have just a vibrant theater scene, entertainment scene, restaurant scene, nightlife scene. We have beautiful hotels along the spectrum in terms of what you want to pay. We have two great rivers that we have invested in. We have a sports culture. We're sports capital. We love our sports teams. And so you're always going to find great things to do. And families live here. And we have really invested in my time in office at making this a place where people can raise their families. We have the fastest improving urban school district in the nation, the #1 park system in the nation. 3-year-olds in our city can go to our public schools for free, universal pre-K. And so that has helped us be the fastest growing state in the nation, even beating Florida that gained a lot of population. We're now back to levels of our population is greater now than it was before the pandemic. So that type of growth is important to our future.
The Honorable Muriel Bowser is our guest, the Mayor of Washington, D.C., and we'll be back. You know, throughout history, leaders or character is defined by struggle and strife. And it certainly has not been, you've not been an exception to this. There was a time in this city when crime was just out of control. And you had to make some tough decisions. You had to fight with your local council here, and you had to get tough. And the dramatic drop in crime, which other cities are not seeing. What was it that you were able to do? And what did you learn from that to make that change, to make your community safe, to make people secure, and let them know that you were a law and order mayor?
The very first thing that I say helped us turn the tide is I took 100% responsibility. And in this city, the mayor is not responsible for a lot of the public safety ecosystem. Their federal partners, their changes to the law. So there's a lot that goes into the brew that makes us a safe city. But regardless of who had the dotted line responsibility, the people want me to make the city safer. And so we decided that we need to see certain changes to the law. We have to go out there, show the council what will work, what has worked, and what we need changed. We have to sell it to the community, and we have to get it done. And so I give a lot of great credit to the Ward 2 council member who helped spearhead that legislation through the council. We also had to put heat and light and attention on the part of the system that is not a local responsibility. The federal prosecutor, the judges, what could they be doing to make our city safer? We had to focus on our young people and say, how are we doing with prosecutions and supports for young people and families? We have to support our police officers, not denigrate our police officers, and build back the numbers that we need. And because we did all of those things in partnership with community, we have seen a 35% decrease in violent crime in our city. And we needed to. We had one very bad year. And that very bad year colored the perceptions of our city in a way that is very negative when you're growing and you're attracting people to your city. So the turnaround has been remarkable. Probably last year, this time, if I was at a community meeting or sitting down with you, all you would want to talk about was crime. Now people have seen that we put in the work that needed to be done, and we're going in the right direction. But I always caution people, we don't want to take our foot off the gas.
What's fascinating is that when you look at places like Maryland and Florida and other places, you have these school shootings where kids are able to penetrate the system, kill their peers, kill themselves. But that doesn't happen in Washington, D.C.
Thank God.
Why?
I don't know. It shouldn't happen anywhere.
But is it because you have resource officers that are law enforcement? What is it that you do here that it doesn't? I mean, I just thought about it. It doesn't happen. You've never had to face that crisis.
Well, we had somebody shoot at one of our independent schools, which was shocking. And it was a wake-up call to all of us to make sure our systems were as hardened as they have to be. But I think
What are the systems, though?
Well, I think you find in a lot of urban school districts, we mitigate for weapons. Okay, you don't walk into one of our schools with weapons. And that's not always the case across the country.
And you do that through law enforcement?
We have private contracted security. We have, and let's face it, I didn't go to school where I had to walk through a metal detector.
Nor did I.
And I wish that we didn't live in a country where that was necessary. But that is the case in a lot of our schools with kids of a certain age.
What about the home life? What about the kids, the exposure to drugs? What about the internet? It just seems as though so many of our young people are in such crisis. I mean, where is the responsibility? Where does it lie? It doesn't lie in law enforcement because they're at the end of it. But what about the homes? What about the students? What about their activities? What are we not doing?
Well, I think the government does a lot. And when you say it doesn't lie with law enforcement, in some ways, I was like, it's not, the government can't do it alone either. We do need community, we need church, we need family. And we need I think, in my humble estimation, a focus on values, where we have put a high value on education, a high value on life, a high value on personal integrity. And I think we have to have a community and a culture where it's okay to talk like that.
Yeah, but you mentioned education. The education system in America is in crisis, but your school system is one that is like those in Florida and other places, one that is highlighted, that continues to make progress. What is it that the district does differently, let's say, from a place like Baltimore and these other areas where this education is in crisis?
Our taxpayers have allowed us to invest an incredible amount of money in turning around our schools. I give great credit to Mayor Fenty, as you know, who had a hard fight for the mayor to be accountable for the schools. They call it mayoral control, but what it is mayoral accountability and council oversight. So no longer do we have in our city since 2007, almost 20 years, we've had mayoral accountability of our schools. It used to be literally a school board would be pointing fingers at the mayor and the council, and the school board had all the money, and the schools would open late, and the textbooks would be in a warehouse somewhere not getting to the students, and the vendors weren't paid on time. And guess what? People were fleeing the schools. Now we have seen our population grow in our schools year over year. We recovered from the pandemic faster than any school district in the region. We also became very focused on a landmark agreement during the Fenty administration between the teachers and the district. We pay for performance, and we have a system that if you aren't performing as a teacher, you can't work here. And so we have attracted the best and the brightest. We pay them for performance. We have the best paid teachers for sure in the region, and probably greater than a lot of places in America. And as a result, our kids are just getting a high quality education.
But you're also very open to other options, school vouchers,
Yeah.
Whatever it takes for the child to learn, you don't push against it. Whatever works for the child and the families, if you have the results, you become the advocate.
We have a robust system of choice here, but I hasten to say that we've seen in that almost 20 years now, our traditional public school system, in a lot of respects, is outpacing our non-traditional options. And so you may say it's that competition, it's the investment, leadership, and it's been consistent. We've also invested a tremendous amount in our buildings. So when children and families walk into our schools, they know that DC cares about education.
I want to come back to how I opened the show and mentioning your meeting with President Trump. He was impressed with you, with your intellect, your calmness, your kindness, but your focus and your love for the city. Even in where he felt there are things he had learned about the district. And the other thing is, which is interesting, is that they can't really put you in a box. They can't make you out to be a progressive. They can't put you in a box where they see you through the prism of being someone's black, of a black woman. You are the mayor of Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. You are the mayor of all people. Mm-hmm. You're not the mayor of tribalism and groups. Mm-hmm. You're the mayor of the people. Why is that so significant in your role as a leader?
Well, I think it's significant for all leaders. I'm not just the mayor of the people who voted for me. I'm similar to the president. He's not only the president for everybody who voted for him. He's going to be the president of the United States of America. And so, if I'm being the most hopeful, generous, and optimistic, I hope that he sees these 4 years as a way to gain people to support him. And the way that you do that is the way that I've always done it is I keep my promises. So I do what I say that I'm going to do. I tell people what I'm dealing with and why I'm making decisions that I'm making. And I try to make the best decisions that are going to help the most people the fastest. That's just how I lead. And the other thing that when you win, you have the opportunity and the obligation, in my view, to make the tent bigger.
4 years ago was very difficult for you, January 6th. Mm-hmm. But you made it through. What lessons did you learn from 4 years ago?
Well, I think January 6th was very hard for our country.
It was.
For us, for Washingtonians, what I saw was a very prepared police department that saved the Capitol. And I learned that we have invested in great leaders and great people, and I was very proud of them. I also learned that sometimes it's going to fall to me. When the Capitol's security was breached, there was a lot of uncertainty about what was happening in the Capitol. All of our lawmakers were assembled there. The Vice President of the United States was there. Someone was shot in there. And for a period of time, we weren't sure what reinforcements we would get. But the Metropolitan Police Department was there. And they secured that building and allowed the certification of votes to happen. And it was me, the little old me, the mayor from the District of Columbia, who briefed the American people on the building being secure and the lawmakers being secure and the certification process being complete.
But you also have the ability to work with all the forces here. There's so many, you have different kind of law enforcement forces here that operate. How important it is to strategically assemble those forces together and move the egos out of it and make sure that we work for what is better for the city and the country overall.
It is so important. And it's there's real authority and there's your persuasive authority. And that's what I have to exercise a lot. None of those agencies report to me, but they all do a little bit because I'm the mayor of the city and they want to be supportive of a comprehensive way to keep the city safe and to look good. These are people, they go to work every day to protect and serve, and they want to do their job and they want to go home safely. And I'm just really proud. I've gotten to know all of the different leaders. I've been impressed with them. And our leader, Chief Pamela Smith, is top. She comes out of one of the federal agencies as well. So we have a lot of great connections.
Well, when we come back, I can just let you know, I just think of all the things that we've talked about, I think what is extraordinary about this mayor is not only has she kept the Washington Wizards and the Capitals here, but let me tell you, there may be this probability, and I'm going to say the Redskins. I know she's not going to agree with that, but it will always be the Redskins to me, that the Commanders are coming back to your city. We'll be back.
It is easier to build up strong children than to try and repair broken men.
The streets are plagued with crime, violence. There's a lot of poverty, and it's all a result of lack of education that's happening in our schools. So it really is a crisis.
We come from very different political perspectives, but we've come to the same conclusion, and that is there is a crisis in the classroom. Children are being deprived of quality of life because they're being deprived of a good education. We must solve this problem. It's incumbent upon all of us to join hands together to get this done.
We can't afford to wait one more day before we address these issues, because every day we lose another child.
Let's stop the politicking. Let's stop the games. Let's really do something to give these kids a real chance at life and being a part of that American dream.
We need accountability for funding. Many of the districts where you're seeing very low test scores, students graduating with very low literacy and math comprehension rates, they are receiving a lot of funding. So where is the money going where our kids aren't being adequately educated?
If you believe every child is deserving of a quality education, please go to educationjusticefoundation.com.
What I'm happy about is that we have not only one inaugural situation, but two, Mayor Bowser, who I have supported ever since she's been in office. I've seen the great things she has done for every community here. She has embraced the international aspects of what this country is within the District of Columbia, just like the Vatican and Rome. I've seen her go to community events, and she's always on call. Personally, for me, I love what she does for the things that I do, which have an international flavor, but also how she imbues what is necessary for the community to grow and to be inspired. So she is an acolyte, and that she renews it every time that she's elected. Wherever she goes, her light does shine, which means the light shines on the District of Columbia. The reason why so many people want to come to the city, because we have a great mayor, we have a wonderful city, and she does a great job in making sure that it's a place that you want to come and visit. And obviously a whole lot of people want to live, because all this building is not just to remain vacant, it is to house the people who are going to be enlightened even more when the nation grows brighter under her leadership.
I am Senator Kent Williams, and I represent Senate District 30 in South Carolina. Things have really changed during that period, during his administration, in terms of policy and the direction in which he took the country. I think there were some good things that happened, and there were some not so good things in my opinion, and that's pretty typical, I would imagine, with any president and the changing of the guard. I mean, you come in with new ideas and a fresh set of eyes that want to take the country in a different direction. And with that being said, obviously the people want to go in a different direction. They want to go in a different direction then, and they did. And of course, at the end of his term, his first term, obviously they wanted to go in a different direction. But Biden was elected, but things are quite different.
My name is Clyde Bonnell, New York State Assembly member for the 33rd Assembly District in Southeast Queens. I serve as the chair on the Committee on Banks. An inauguration is an awesome thing. Think about this. We as public officials, that's the day where we take an oath to make sure that we uphold the federal Constitution, to make sure that we, with all of our ability, do the best that we can to make sure that we take care of the people. And that's when you actually give a public oath that you're going to do that. And that's a very, very solemn event, a very solemn thing to do. And when I did it the first time, I felt the gravity of the moment.
Well, culturally, you're going to bring kind of the world together because as American citizenry, regardless of people talking about illegal immigrants, whatever, we are a nation of immigrants. We're a nation of diverse individuals. My job in the city of Chicago was the World by the Lake 87 distinct ethnic communities. And you have that in the district just because of the diplomatic corps itself, that with the embassies, you have that flavor. You can bring the world to basically to the citizenries of this nation, and I think that adds to the excitement too that we are a world city, which people tend to forget. And I think that with each presidential election, especially in the last 16 years, starting really with 2008, I should say, that we have become more global in our perspective, which is a very good thing. For me, the thing that pains me the most is being I call it geopolitically correct, is that we don't understand how foreign affairs impact our domestic lives. And so for Washington, D.C. is a little bit different than Chicago. It's different than New York. Even though the United Nations is there, this is the capital. All eyes are on us. As citizenry, all eyes on us. As our culture, all eyes on us as our policies. So this inauguration, specifically this one, when so many things are happening in the world, especially around technology and youth, protests and all of this, this is going to be a very telling time, not for Trump, but how we respond to the world and how he responds to us and how he handles the world on our behalf.
It's obvious. She was just sworn in for her third term. Obviously, she's doing something right. The people, the citizens that she represented in the city of Washington, D.C. obviously like the direction in which she's taken the city, and it's evident. So she's doing something right. I don't know a lot about her policy and those types of things, but I've heard good things about her. I think she's trying to do the right thing. I think she's pro-business and trying to grow the city and represent everybody, and I think that's very important. And I think she's grounded and she has her finger on her pulse and she talks to the people and she listens. And so it's evident that she is moving in the right direction. And so I applaud her and congratulate her. What people don't realize, it's not easy representing people, especially a diverse population. A lot of people that move into this city from different nationalities and trying to accommodate everybody and represent everybody. That's very challenging. So she is to be commended for a job well done, and she talks to people, and that's what you have to do. I think she talks to everybody, and you have to talk to everybody, regardless of their party persuasion or whatever beliefs. You got to talk to people. You got to have a good listening ear. I think that's the mark of a good public servant, if you will, to be a good listener and try to do what is in the best interest of the citizens in which you represent. And in doing that, everybody's not going to be happy, but whatever you do in the policy that you push and you facilitate, it has to be for the greater good of the people. And I really believe she has done that. I think her heart is in the right place, and that's why she's going for her 10th term. tell people often it's not rocket science. People will be honest, sometimes brutally honest, and you just have to listen to the people. And you have to remember that you represent the people, not your own ideals and thoughts and beliefs, because you can think one way and believe something different. But you have to listen to your constituency. And, you know, when you do that, you will continue to represent the people in their best interest and be very, have a very prosperous, I like what's happening, even with the Washington Commanders and what's going on and working on that. And I think that's paramount. I think it's very important. And I think there's a lot of interest in the city for, you know, what's going on there. So she could be commended. I think she's doing a great job. Is she perfect? Absolutely not. None of us are.
So during this inauguration, weekend and during inauguration, it's not only a time for the people that take the oath to be able to be solemn and think about the gravity of what they're doing. It's also important for the residents, for the people, to be able to, also take part in understanding that we're going into a new day, a new age, a new administration, and we're all in this together, and we all have to work together to make this country better.
So an inauguration puts me in the mind of new beginnings, new leadership, new ideas, bringing in new people with new ideas.
I mean, we're at a vortex of major change. And right now, because of who is president, and the world is all looking at him and all the things that he did prior to him actually being sworn in, that it gives an edge, I think an advantage to not only the citizenry, but to this administration, but to the whole world. And I think that DC is going to reclaim its sort of importance and also its prestige, right? Because no matter what, prestige to me is when you have some authentic entity that tell people the way it is, how it will be, and that their ego sometimes will make it right no matter who is around that individual. So I think that we're going to look back at 2025, and it will be a historical moment, not because of Trump is here, but so much stuff has happened before he has taken that particular office that we're going to make this country great again because we're better informed, right? I think it's that when you have a personality that agitates you, it's like washing machine, that you need an agitator. And when things are agitated, first it seems like the dust is flying, but eventually, if you keep on agitating, you're going to get something clean out of it. And that I'm excited about for the city.
Well, one thing about the mayor that I'm just so impressed with is that regardless of who is coming into leadership, she goes out of her way to make sure that she gets an appointment and talks to them and tells them that she's representing the people of the great District of Columbia and what the needs are, what the desires are, and what her goal is to get us to where we need to be. So she did that with the current administration. She actually met with them. I saw, her words afterwards saying that it went well, to explain to him that we've got a city of over 700,000 people. I happen to be a veteran who I spent 24 years in the Air Force living here in Washington, D.C. And I think it's very important that she does what she does, and I appreciate how she does it.
I'm from New York, and New York is another. DC is another great city that we have in this nation, and leadership that the mayor has shown that we see in New York is very, very impressive. From what I see, that she has been able to reduce crime, in this area, in this city, to be able to make DC a livable place. One of the challenges that DC has, that also New York has, is the affordability. For being able to, for the amount of what housing costs, to be able to purchase a house, to be able to have rent, and to see that some of the policies that the mayor has put in her first 2 terms to make sure that DC remains affordable. And again, that's a challenge to do so. But we really respect what she's been able to do here in this city.
I think he changed the course or the trajectory of the nation and how people think and how people respond to politics. I think he allowed it to be very sort of gut bucket acceptability, his particular style and the way into which he does things authentically, where a lot of candidates in the past have not, there's no facade with him. And I think that that really kind of pulled in a lot of people, regardless whether they were Republican or Democrat. He was the man to be talked about because of who he was on his personality. But for his inauguration as well, you know, for me, whether it's a presidential inauguration or a mayoral inauguration, the word inaugural itself means the first of. So every time we have an inauguration, it allows politicians particularly to reset the course of whatever their elected responsibilities might be. And for that, I'm always excited no matter who the president is, because no matter what they may have done if they were president 4 years ago, if you are elected again, then you have a time and an opportunity to sort of cover your sins or your frailties or your faults within the citizenry to whom you have been elected to represent.
As a home buyer, you need a lender who cares about your home ownership dreams. United Security Financial has been helping families secure their dream homes for 30 years. We're a national fair practice lender that provides affordable mortgages and low down payment programs to eligible home buyers. To learn how United Security Financial can help you secure your dream home, call 1-800-373-4186.
Lose the Capitals, how this mayor was going to lose the Washington Wizards, how businesses that rely on these businesses are going to shut down. I remember people just dismissing the fact there's no possibility that the Commanders could ever come back to the District of Columbia. And there's no way they're going to deed that land, the federal government, to the District of Columbia. But Mayor Bowser, you're a beast.
Thank you. Thank you.
So talk about, I don't think that people really understand the significance and how unprecedented this is.
Thank you.
The possibility of the Commanders coming back to this city.
Well, people, Washingtonians do. We saw our team pack up and decamp and go someplace else. You know, our championship team. We've been missing them for over 20 years, and we are very excited about the possibility of them coming home. But we're even more excited. I made a promise 10 years ago that RFK land had to be controlled by the district. We have to control our destiny. And I've worked tirelessly with my very capable team to get that done. And what people, I don't know what they call it, the midnight miracle or whatever they call it, we got it done. And I kind of chuckled at some of the stories that were written that made it seem like some surprise or accident or fate. And in something that came together in the midnight hour, but in fact, it was the result of many, many months of work and making connections and building relationships, some unlikely relationships. It was
You mean with Republicans?
With Republicans. And that's, in the course of all of these talks and negotiations, I've had more conversations with people who I'd never met, but were respectful and willing to help for something that made sense for DC and for the American people.
But what you just said is a very important message across the board for leaders, is that you don't know the people you're going to have to build alliances with to achieve your goal. And you're willing to meet with people like Comer and other Republicans. It's not about whether they were Republicans or whatever. It was whatever achieved the goal of bringing the team back to the district.
Well, the very interesting thing is my first meeting with Congressman Comer was to meet him before a hearing that he had asked me to come to about public safety. And so I said, before I go to the hearing, I want to sit down with you. I want to let you know like how I'm going to approach this hearing, who I am and who the district is. And by the way, this is how you can help us. And I said, you can help us by helping us work on RFK and the return to the office. And he said, I'm going to help you. And he did.
He honored his word.
He honored his word. So like, I don't have anything negative to say about James Comer when it comes to Washington, D.C.
Talk about the struggle. Well, it appeared as a struggle when there were talks that Monumental Sports were going to Virginia.
Yeah.
It was up in the businesses. I remember the headlines in the papers. I remember the whispers, and it was an indictment of you and the lack of leadership.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that was among the more difficult like experiences that I've had, but also in the end of the day, one of the most triumphant. Because, you know, I've been around long enough and around enough economic development deals that when I saw that one in Virginia, I knew it was paper thin. And I knew we had the best location, not just for us, but for the region. And we could put together a real deal more quickly than anybody.
You know, obviously, it's a new era in Washington, D.C., and you are a Democratic mayor. You've got a very good relationship with President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. How does the Democratic Party rebuild for the times that we're in?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, this is where I am. I'm head down focused on Washington, D.C. So certainly I have my views about national politics, but right now my politics is local.
How do you manage to stay out of being put into a box in terms of being labeled? That people just really focus not only on your leadership, but result. One result as another. How much does your faith, the spirit of your family, your work, and the people that you work with, you're surrounded by some very exceptional people that really believe in you and are very loyal.
Oh, we are. See, the very good, the thing that probably is least talked about my job is, and about it says a lot about our District of Columbia government, is we attract great people. People who want to work in government, who are smart. A lot of them could work a lot of other places, but they're focused on doing good for people, and they know that we're a city that invest in big ideas and good ideas and get them done in a short amount of time. You can't accomplish that in the federal government. It's like moving a very big boat. And you can be more nimble in local government, especially DC, because we're city, county, state. And you can go from idea to implementation in less than a budget cycle if you know what you're doing. And that's what we've been able to do for the last 10 years.
And so what are your challenges as you face 2025 for the district?
I think we are very focused on our comeback, and I laid out an action plan for downtown, a comeback strategy, and a lot of it is hinged on the new way of work. So our downtown is not going to go back to the way it was in 2019, but we want more people in the office. We want that vibrancy back, and that will mediate any concerns we have about incoming revenues. So we're very focused on that. We're also very focused on delivering for RFK. So the Congress did a great thing in giving us control for 99 years of RFK. Now we got to deliver. We'd love to come to a deal with the team and develop the parcels, 177 acres in the district. We stay focused on public safety, and we're going to continue to do that.
But you also indicated and hinted, you know, it's revitalization.
Absolutely.
And this redevelopment can change the. Can you imagine what you can do with that property that has been neglected for so many decades?
I can imagine.
Well, what are you imagining?
Well, I'm imagining a mix of uses. So right now there is a stadium there that hasn't been used in almost 10 years. We're going to take that down. Our proposal will include a stadium if we come to terms with the team. And we're going to have our own Parks and Recreation facility, an indoor complex for our kids and DC residents. Then we'll have housing. We'll have a almost 30-acre park there that connects to the Anacostia River. We'll have an entertainment district. And we will have other commercial development that creates jobs, not just for DC, but for the entire region, that creates more tax revenue and creates vibrancy. Keep in mind that when you're on that parcel and you look to the west, you see the United States Capitol. You keep looking, you see the Washington Monument. There's really no more iconic a vista for a sports arena, in my opinion, than right there.
How do we continue to make DC affordable for everyone? And how do we continue to close the gap for those that have and those that have less?
Well, that's a great question because I call it our fair shot agenda. We've worked on it for the entire time that I've been mayor. In fact, when I was elected, that was the number one challenge for us because our economy, we were talking pre-COVID, economy booming, businesses moving here, people with great paying jobs. Cost of housing was through the roof. So I pledged then that we would do $100 million a year, every year. It's been 10 years. We've actually done more, over $1.4 billion in investment. And we've created 36,000 new housing units, the most per capita than any place in America. So we have to be able to continue that. In fact, I'm convening with the National League of Cities to talk about the American housing crisis and what we as mayors can do in conjunction with the federal government to create more housing. We have to have more housing. And here we also have to have more good paying jobs for DC residents. So we have a big strategy about how high school needs to be different. Kids need to be able to work and learn and be prepared for the jobs of the future. But all of our business folks, and I hope that all of the government efficiency folks and the big tech and everything that's involved with the incoming administration also focuses on what big business and big tech can do in American cities to help our residents get good paying jobs of the future.
You know, Doge feel they have a very good relationship with you. They feel that you guys have some of the same goals in mind, returning people to these buildings.
Yes.
And when you return people to the building, it returns the economy and it brings in more revenue
right.
For the city. You know, it is the inauguration, week of the inauguration. What are some of your fondest memories of recent inaugurations?
Oh, wow. Well, it's hard to kind of think about it when you're involved in the planning. Because we're there to make sure everything is going well. But being able, anytime that you can represent 700,000 people, and that's how I look at it. You saw me at the state funeral for President Carter. While I'm sitting there for DC residents. And so that's how I feel if I get to sit up on the podium during an inauguration, I'm sitting there for DC residents. The last one, I will say, for President Biden, that was very different because it was during COVID and there were no spectators out, but there was still a parade. I got to say, "Hey, Mr. President," like I'm the only spectator. And he was like, he was so happy that he came over and we had a little chat. Yes. So, and then the others where we've just had massive amounts of people. We had one where we had a very peaceful women's march that the day following the last Trump inauguration that was spontaneous but beautiful. And, you know, they've all been a lot of fun.
Of all the things you've talked about as we wrap this inaugural special, where do you find your strength and your source when you go through these troubled and challenging times? What do you go to?
Well, I'm blessed that I have been able to do a job that I love. And I'm grateful that the people have given me this time to gain the experience that I have. So when I go into any uncertain times, I rely on my experience, my God-given good sense, and I make the best decisions that I can.
Do you ever get upset?
Sure.
Do you ever get angry?
Yeah, I do. I do.
So listen, Mayor Bowser, I just want to know you're human. So you answered that pretty well. But yeah, Mayor Bowser, it has really been a pleasure. I'll always say this to people, you're the best mayor in the city. I am so proud.
I'm the only mayor in the city.
You're the best mayor in the city. There are a lot of pretenders, but you are the mayor. Every city should emulate you
Oh, you're sweet.
as their
Thank
leader
you.
because you're very inclusive. You're really caring, and you're always on the job. It has been
Thank
my
you.
pleasure,
My pleasure.
sitting and chatting with you, and enjoy the remainder of the broadcast. Thank you all so much for joining us for this edition of the Armstrong Williams Show. And this is inside. What's this building we're in?
We're at City Hall.
This
We're in the
is
John A. Wilson building in Washington, D.C.
The John A. Wilson building, City Hall. It's pretty impressive too. Sometimes I think I'm in the United States Capitol when I look at the age of this building. It's been around a very long time. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank
We're
you.
out of here. I'm
Thank
Armstrong
you.
Williams.
Thank you.